Hello, everyone. Charles here, and by now, most of you have heard the news about Newtown and the 27 people that were killed by a gunman. A heinous tragedy for us here in the U.S. And there's earlier I made a video about the animal kingdom keeping their levels right by the numerous ways that, like the lions eating the zebras, and made fun of that, and said, and here jokingly I said, here in America we do that by drunk drivers and handguns, and this is not something to joke about at all. And I'm not here to make fun or anything like that. It's a serious matter. In Newtown, 27 people have been killed, and you think about that number of people. It's not a great number, but how many people are linked to the 27? How many people are just beside themselves with grief over this 27? How many people did each of them affect in that they're gone now, and their children? And can you imagine that? I tell my children all the time, and I ask my sons, because my son smokes, so I ask them to make me a promise, and promise to visit my grave. Because the worst thing a parent can ever do, the worst thing that can happen to me, personally, the worst thing that can happen to me as a parent is to bury my child. And we're seeing that in this tragedy, that parents are having to bury their children because someone got a hold of some firearms and his head got twisted and brain got all miswired and went on a shooting spree. And it brings up the question, where do we go now? What happens with the right to bear arms? Maybe this should be rethought. Maybe we should rethink the right to bear arms. In my own history, I'm 55 years old, and I've had some history with it. I've never owned a handgun. I have once held one in my hand. And the reason I held the one in my hand was because my father would come home drunk and he would become violent. When he was drunk, he got violent, and something bad would happen. I found his handgun because he had one, and I hid it so that he didn't shoot us all. I was afraid that he would, for some reason, he was getting to the place where his sons were now bigger than him, and when he came home drunk, we could overpower him. So I'm thinking, what will he do now? Maybe he'll grab his handgun and shoot us all. So that we can overpower him. Who knows what happens in the mind of a person who just flips? But if he has in his possession something like a handgun or a firearm, anybody's guess how badly it'll go wrong. And I was afraid of that, so I hid his gun. I tried to remove the bullets, but I couldn't figure out how, and I didn't want to spend enough time with the thing to figure out how. I've never wanted to own a handgun. I've never wanted to hold one. I've never wanted to have one. I always looked at them as an evil that should be purged from our society. And that's because I live in Detroit. And in Detroit, this year alone, as of December 16th, there have been 375 murders in Detroit. Roughly one a day. Most of them by handgun. There was a report several years ago that in Detroit there were enough registered handguns for every citizen to have 3. That's just registered handguns. Those aren't the ones that never got registered or were bought and no one ever reported them, or were stolen from some other place and never were reported. That's just registered handguns. And we have issues here. We have violent issues. I mean, people would know. We used to call this the murder city because there were so many murders. And it's still going on. 375 is nothing to snooze over. In England, there were 41 gun-related slayings. In the U.S., 10,000. Those numbers aren't close. They're not anywhere near. I think England has a problem at 41. The U.S., wow, that's not a problem. That's something that's shocking. That's what's shocking. And I'm reading on a CNN report that's because this has all come to light. They're saying that as of 9/11, there have been 17 Americans killed because of acts of terrorism worldwide. In that same time span, 88,000 Americans have died as a result of shooting deaths because someone fired on them. These are staggering figures. This is something that we need to just stop. When something's not working, You can't keep saying we have the right to bear arms, we have the right to bear arms. It's not working. We're killing each other. We're killing each other at a rate that is staggering. And the 27 that happened in Newport, that's a tragedy. But here in Detroit, we just wait 27 days. And it repeats itself. Every 27 days, 27 people are killed here. So maybe we're numb to it. Maybe we're used to it. I grew up in this city. I grew up in this city thinking that a sniper was an occupation as a child, because there were so many of them. I grew up through 2 riots where it wasn't safe to go off the block. It was sometimes not safe to go out of the house. My father sent me to the store when I was 12 years old to buy him cigars with a $20 bill. As the store was 1 block away from our house, I walked to the store, I got the cigars, the cigars were thrown into the bag. I threw the change in the bag and I started home. I probably got 50 feet from the store when I was grabbed by the back of my neck, thrown into an alley, and turned around to have a 9mm pointing in my face, right in my nose. And I'm looking down the barrel of a 9mm. Later they asked me, what did the guy look like? I said, he looked like the barrel of a 9mm. I didn't look at him. All I could see was Desert Ease. And this is what happened to me as a 12-year-old growing up in Detroit. There were other times when there were instances. The woman I married was married 2 and had 4 children by 19 years. She had a father who got depressed, and he went and shot, and his wife left him, her mother left him, and he went to where she was, and he shot her with a shotgun and then shot himself. And this is something that we should just, it's tragic. It's just crazy tragic, and it doesn't need to even happen, because we could make laws to prevent this, but we won't. We won't here, because we have the right to bear arms. It's in our Constitution. And as long as it's in our Constitution, we're going to keep on making and selling and giving out arms like it's candy. Everybody should have a gun. Everybody should have the right to just shoot their neighbor. You know, if you even think about sneezing in my home, bang, I'm going to shoot your ass. There was a incident where my niece lived in an apartment building here in Detroit, and apparently one of the tenants was evicted, didn't like it, and came back with her 2 sons to complain. And complained rather loudly, I might admit. Well, apparently the super must have thought that they had firearms, because he went and got the Tech 9 out and sprayed them. And then, what do you know, if the whole block was surrounded by police cars or yellow caution tape everywhere, and that brother's on the lam. Well, he lost his job. You know, wow, secret. You know, not surprise, shock. Again, and he didn't hit anybody. But, you know, it's just, I guess the guy never went to the shooting range. But who does? How many people do go to the shooting range? It's usually an innocent bystander that gets shot when they have some type of gun down in the streets. And that happens here in our city. I hear it from time to time. You know, I'm just sitting at home minding my own business, and I hear pow, pow, pow. Yeah, it happens. And it's because we have the right to bear arms. The NRA has now told us that they're going to ensure that this never happens again. Really? They can make that insurance? They can make that guarantee? How are they going to do that? I just want to know how. And I'm sure most of you are like me. You want to know how. How it's going to happen. This is Charles Jones, and I'm on a serious note. I want the handguns and the firearms in America to go away. And I want the NRA to go away. And I want to say this. NRA, how are you going to stop it? Make the guns go away, and then it'll stop. That's what will stop it. This is my opinion. I guess if there were no guns, would 27 people still be alive in Newport or Newtown, Connecticut? More than likely.